Hello and welcome back into the mist. My name is Locke. My pronouns are they, he, and I will be your wereraven today. And you have to stay with me. You cannot wander off and get seduced by Strahd. Okay? We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Come back to me, daddy issues. We're gonna stay in line and we're not gonna end up as a wife of Strahd, alright? It's not happening. No consorts either. But yes, today I'm going to be giving you guys some ideas to flesh out and give better backstories to the brides of Strahd, Ludmilla, Anastrasya, and Volenta. We'll talk about a couple other things as well today, but I wanted to give you guys a couple ideas to create your own better stories for them because I think that the brides are horrifically underutilized in the module. So here's some inspiration of some things that you can do. Now, full disclosure before we get into my thoughts and everything, I feel like this video just does not want to get made. I've been like stuck in the process of writing it to where I just kind of went, you know what? Now we're doing it. We're gonna do it live. We're doing it live and we're doing it live right now in front of y'all. I have my bullet points and that's all I'm working with. There was a lizard in my room when I went to record. It was underneath my sound dampening blanket for the crack of my door. That felt like it was like, hey, you're not gonna record today because there was a lizard in my room. There's a heat advisory and my air conditioner has to be off for this so that it's not like blaring in the background while I'm speaking to you. It feels like everything's against me, and I've got maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep. So, now that all of our disclaimers are out of the way for the potential chaos to ensue, let's get started, shall we? Now, I do want to say that I am coming at this from an angle of like all the brides do end up marrying Strahd for one reason or another. So that's the angle that I'm coming at for all of my ideas, because these are kind of just like inspirational points for you guys. I'm putting this out for you on the internet for you to use if you like any of them. But I did see something where someone was coming at it from a more feminist point of view. One of my TikTok mutuals. I should have had this name pulled up because I don't want to get this wrong. Sorry that you had to hear Michael Jackson for a second. My sound was on. Okay. Their at is traveling. No, oh my god, why can't I read? Their at is travel nerding. Their name's Erin, traveling nerd. I believe that is their TikTok and their Instagram. And she has been posting some wonderful things about treating the brides like an infantry, do I want to say? That feels right. Hold on. She calls them the gentry and treats them more of like the first line of defense in a way. I don't want to like overuse someone else's content, so go check her out. Great content. I'm super excited to see the rest of the feminist retelling of Curse of Strahd that Erin is putting out there. But if you're looking for something that does not tie the brides romantically to him, this isn't the video because my ideas here are very much steeped in that they do marry Strahd for one reason or another. I am doing 2 ideas per bride because I don't want this video to be insanely long, and then I have some like general suggestions as well. So I think I'm going to start in the order that I kind of associate that they were turned in, which really truly is just them in like the order that they're listed in the module is what I think I think the general fan space has accepted that this is the order in which they became his brides, which would be Ludmilla, then Anastrasya, then Volenta. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to throw out there is that you could put them in any order that you want if you want to switch it up, but I am presenting them in that particular order of becoming part of Strahd's Polycule. So let's start with Ludmilla. I also very much associate each bride with a certain one of the major settlements, and I can't even tell you why. I associate Ludmilla with Kresk out of all of them. So most of where I'm putting her connections are connected to the village of Kresk, all the way on the western side of Barovia. So my first thought with if she is indeed the first bride of Strahd, then she might have been given to him shortly after his ascension to vampirism and Barovia was pulled into the mist. and thus was kind of more like a sacrifice in a way. I hate to say it. I hate to put it super super bluntly, but like could have been treated more like a political marriage. That's like my first thought about Ludmilla, is that her parents, whoever you want to have them be in nobility, literally arranging a marriage to Strahd to appease him, especially like out of fear of what happened initially after he was turned. The silence, but the need to still pay the taxes, but like clearly something was still going on and he was still around. Maybe it was after they started like saying that he was the devil because he should be like decrepit and aging and he's still like 45 years old. But obviously, going that route really leans into Ludmilla kind of being a victim to start off with, which is something you could absolutely do if that's the story you want to go for. But I also think that you could have that Ludmilla also took it upon herself to do it. That if you don't want it to be that she was kind of forced to marry Strahd because of like political responsibilities, she could have arranged it herself because she was of a noble line and wanted to hopefully help spare her family, her people, if she is from Kresk, you know, to at least buy time. And then she becomes who she becomes after centuries of just, you know, being stuck frozen in time and watch people come and go and come and go and come and go. With that, I also associate Ludmilla as being the more like arcane focused out of the brides, which I think is also a pretty popular I don't think headcanon's the right word, but a pretty popular like agreed upon thing about Ludmilla in the fan space. And you could say that like she got that from like her mother, her family. And that's why she felt capable of like going toe to toe with Strahd and like offering herself up in that way and marrying him. Maybe, maybe she was even interested in Strahd in a way, and it was a way to kind of move up in the world because he's a wizard. They could learn things from each other, sort of thing. Could be something like that. So, my second idea for Ludmilla to present to you all is what if, again, associating her with Kresk, what if she was part of St. Markovia's siege and she fell in battle? Because St. Markovia led like a rebellion uprising against Strahd very shortly after Barovia was pulled into the mist. She wanted to immediately nip that evil in the bud, right? And anyone that she could have gotten to go with her, she would have tried to, right? Maybe Ludmilla's family was associated with the Church of the Morning Lord, so followed this great priest, great paladin of the Morning Lord, and tried to bring good and light back before things got too dark. Tried to save Barovia before it all fell apart. And unfortunately, because we know that that rebellion failed, Ludmilla either fell in battle and was turned against her will, and then now she's trapped in a marriage that she doesn't want to be in, and maybe she's making the best of her situation now. Again, this could lean into arcane because like maybe she was a cleric or something like that before all of it, and now she's just making the best of the situation. And then obviously like vampirism like corrupts people in a way and takes whatever like their obsession or like worst detail about themselves and really like twists it and makes it everything to where like maybe she's super focused on the arcane now and making sure that she's untouchable, because when she was touchable, now she's stuck in this state, so now she refuses to let herself be vulnerable ever again. And that comes out in arcane, and then that could lead to like the reason why Strahd kept her around was because like he has an affinity for the arcane. He likes magic. He's a wizard again. So he kept her around and they, you know, the dark romance ensues. I really like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Connecting her to that, especially because it makes that feel a bit more important, both because of that happening in the past. So, like, when your party goes to Kresk and goes to the Abbey, it gives more weight to what the Abbot's got going on there and just the Abbey in general and some of the superstitions around it that Kreskites have. But also, again, this whole video is based on giving you better ideas to flesh out the brides. That makes Ludmilla a much more compelling character, tragic. You could feel bad for her, but like not justify whatever action she's currently taking in present day against your party and like the people of Barovia, right? So I think they're good ideas. They're good ideas, though I say, not to be biased because they're my ideas, but they're pretty good ideas. This is like a really small thing, but I also often think about Ludmilla being a trans woman, and I think that's also interesting. But I don't have any more thoughts about that to add to this right now, but to further diversify the polycule. But let's talk about the next bride, Anastrasya. Anastrasya I associate with Vallaki a lot. So my first idea for Anastrasya is that she was a noble woman from Vallaki who was a party girl, and basically like Strahd's taste maybe changed a little bit, and he was attracted to her beauty and her want for the nicer things in life. That she had standards, shall we say. She had taste. And not that Ludmilla doesn't, but I just have such different personality types in my head that when Strahd started looking for someone else to add to add to the royal family, I feel like he was looking for someone who was not similar to Ludmilla in any way. And I think that literally might just be that. I think this could even end up being a storyline where, if we don't want to say Anastrasya was into the idea of being with Strahd forever and turning into a spawn, this could be one where Strahd was disguised as Vasily von Holtz in Vallaki and manipulated and gaslit and tricked her into falling in love with Vasily, and then turned her, and then it was too late, and then again Anastrasya is now kind of in a marriage where she has all these beautiful, wonderful things, and she's young and gorgeous forever, right? But like she didn't fully consent to the relationship, because that is obviously very misleading circumstances. Catfishing, if you will. Because you know he gives Vasily a better hairline than what he actually has. You know he does. But again, that is an idea that is making another bride a victim. Strahd is a cruel man, but a lot of the big issues with this module is how it treats women like they're nothing but victims. You know? And expanding upon that is good. Like, obviously, it's likely some of the people who get involved with him romantically, it's probably more of an unwilling situation. But I don't like the idea of giving all of the brides backstories where it's just like it feels like all they were tricked and helpless and they had no like volition of their own and that sort of thing. Which leads me into my second idea for Anastrasya, in which she 100% chose this life for herself. So my second idea for her is if she was an adventurer who was lured with a party of adventurers into Barovia to be Strahd's playthings, and she betrayed the party for beauty everlasting. Now this works for me because I very much characterize Anastrasya as the most vain out of the three brides. She cares about her looks, she cares about her dresses, she wants to have parties and balls and like the best blood she can get her hands on. She wants the best of the best. Like that is like she's rich girl. She's the rich girl. Which like go for her, get your bag. I love you for it. But that's where I feel like she would betray her party for the promise of beauty and power and money forever. Immortality. I don't think it took much for Strahd to see her and use her to break that party apart. And I think that could be a very interesting storyline, because then that is her choosing this for herself, and she gets to just be the beautiful countess in the castle who gets her hands dirty when she has to bathe in blood to defend her lover, the ruler of this land, but for the most part is just kind of in it because she wanted to be hot forever. Like, she could be your boss bitch bride. That's what I'm pitching here. She should be the boss bitch bride. And I really do like the idea of one of the brides being an adventurer turned traitor who aligns herself with Strahd. And you could obviously do that storyline for any of them, any idea you have. But I gave that particularly to Anastrasya in this video because of the fact that I thought it would be interesting to have her be girly pop and evil about it. Alright, so moving on to Volenta. Volenta, I do admit, is my favorite out of the brides. Just period, just point blank, like without adding this extra stuff like my ideas or anything. She is probably my favorite out of them. I think I have the most fun role playing as her as the DM. And I do associate her the most with Barovia, which was probably obvious since the other two were taken. I do associate her most with the village of Barovia. The first idea that I have connects her pretty closely to the village, and is that she is a rewarded cultist from the village of Barovia. Could be the cult from the Death House, could be another cult that happened at a different time, later, same time, whatever. Because I think of her as being really quick, really violent, the most violent physically of the brides. Like she's so stabby. She fucking loves to stab, how I view her anyway. That, and the skull mask that she wears just reads cultist to me, that she was a cultist before she became one of Strahd's wives. So maybe if you want to connect her to the Death House, that she was a part of that, and Strahd actually was kind of interested in her and what she was doing within that cult, so like altering a little bit about how disappointed and bored he was with the cultists of the Death House, that maybe she actually showed some promise. Maybe she was more sadistic with the ritual sacrifices that they did, or something like that, that drew him to her violent nature. Could be that she betrayed the cult to him and, let him know of like, hey, they're making like a mockery of like who you are as a person, and then he like kind of rewarded her with power. Could be something like that. Really putting her at the forefront of, she wanted to become a weapon. Just because, like, I associate, I'm going to talk about the nicknames and everything, the pet names that I say that Strahd calls his wives and stuff like that in a second, but, like, I kind of associate her as Strahd's weapon in a way. And then my second idea goes back into, she's a little bit more of a victim. So this idea, Natalie actually helped me come up with. Natalie, who is co-host of my podcast, my Ravenloft lore podcast, Dark Lords and Dragons. She helped me come up with this one. So I want to give some credit there where it is due. So thank you, Natalie. But what if Strahd was originally trying to seduce Volenta's mother? Because he thought Volenta's mother was Tatiana. But then she dies horrifically. And whether or not she was Tatiana reincarnated could be up in the air. But the point is that he thought that she was Tatiana. And she dies horrifically. Like normal. Like Tatiana always does. And then there is an adult daughter. Let's be very, very clear. An adult daughter, I think at least in 20s, because we know he likes them young, but I ain't doing that. Left with the daughter and decided, well, I'm not going to lose out on my time. You're good enough. Or even he thinks that she has to be Tatiana because he couldn't have been wrong about thinking that Tatiana's soul was near. Now obviously we think about the red hair whenever Tatiana comes back, and that's always a big indicator physically, is that the reincarnations usually at least have red hair, regardless of like what physical form they're taking, what gender representation they're taking. Always red hair, and Volenta very much does not have red hair. So it really would be Strahd just deciding like, I was wrong or I lost my chance again and I'm making it your problem. And maybe Volenta agrees, one, because she doesn't really have a choice at that point, because how could you say no? And two, if he was pursuing Volenta's mom, she would likely probably get entombed in Castle Ravenloft. So she might also say yes, because the only way she will ever get to visit her mother's grave is if she goes and is with Strahd, to where like it's kind of like this very sad, reluctant marriage union, because he took everything from her, so now she has nothing left, and now he's doting on her because she's special. We're borderlining into like really bad manipulative grooming territory with that one, so obviously again, manage your own mileage. She becomes so playful and sadistic after she is turned, because that helps protect her from everything else going on at the castle. Like, you have to find your own little way to survive when you become part of Castle Ravenloft, like the people who actually live in there, right? You have to have your own thing going on to protect and make it so that no one wants to fuck with you. And maybe she became that way because she needed to. Could even add that the skull that she wears, maybe that's her mom's skull. Make her fucking Cubone. Is that Cubone? The Pokemon? Yeah, Cubone is known for wearing the skull of its deceased mother. Yeah, what if that was her mom's skull that she wears? Because it helps her feel connected. That's totally chill and fine and normal thing to do. It could just be a skull of someone that she killed that she's proud of, or just like a daily ornament thing. But also, wouldn't it be really fucked up if that was her mom's skull? I think that would be fun. Okay, so those are like my big main ideas to present to you. I'm so curious of what you guys have to say about that. But I did say I was going to cover some other like general things, so let's do that. So I've been calling this a polycule, and obviously this could depend on what you want to show about how he treats others. And there's obviously a lot of issues with consent about these relationships, because if they're just spawn, if they're just vampire spawn, they literally have to do everything that he says, and they can't really refuse him. Like, he has control over them. I argue that the brides are ascended further than spawn. They're obviously not true vampires, because Strahd and another true vampire, they'd be at each other's throats. I think they're like some sort of medium step that I don't think we actually have a good term for in 5e, but they're definitely like somewhere higher than just spawn. I think that they still get to kind of choose to be there. Whether that is something that they did not choose for themselves until after like the Vampire's Room really like corrupted them or not is kind of up in the air of like what you want to do. But I think there's a level of they want to be there and they want Strahd to succeed. They care and love for this man for one way or another, that sort of thing. So that is my thought process of how I approach them. And then as far as the polycule of it all, because I keep saying polycule, and that is a good way to address it in a way. But obviously polyamory requires a lot of actual open and honest communication, and would imply that like not just Strahd is married to all of the wives, but like the wives might be involved with each other, and I really like leaning into that. I think that the wives have found each other romantically in one way or another, whether they're all dating or they're all married or not. Like, you can change what you want to have done, but I think it's kind of interesting. I do think it has to stay within whoever is a part of like the royal family. I don't think Ludmilla is allowed to just go date a commoner and like turn someone or something like that. I think Strahd is still too possessive in that way, of like he would be fine with those who live within the castle getting it on with each other, but like you can't do it without him knowing, you know. God, he's got a cuck chair. God damn it. Anyway, but obviously you can really lean into him being completely horrible with relationships, because he isn't a good man. And I don't see him getting better with relationships after centuries, because that was such a intrinsically evil part of him that was twisted by becoming a vampire and becoming a Dark Lord as Barovia was pulled into the mist and whatnot. So it'd be kind of weird if he was like super, super good to his wives, but I don't think he's so horrifically abusive that they don't want to still be there with him. They've continued to choose to be at his side for a reason. So there's clearly some sort of mutual respect and love and goals that they have together to continue to go through this undeath hand in hand and hand in hand. Now, pet names. Pet names for what I think Strahd refers to his wives as. Ludmilla, he refers to as my Fang. Kind of goes with that she wears the white dress. And she was also the first, again, in my lineup. Anastrasya is my Jewel, because she's the fancy party girl. She shimmers and shines under the greatest little lights and is decadent and gorgeous. Volenta, he would refer to as my dagger. And I really like that. And that's where I was kind of saying earlier when I was talking about Volenta in particular, of her being kind of like one of his weapons, being one of the more violent brides in my mind. Also, I think it's kind of cute. My dagger, my violent little dagger. Oh, this is getting a little fourth wing. Never mind. Take it back. It's not cute. Don't say that. Gross. And before I end this video, I know I have to address the elephant in the room, because somebody's waiting for me to talk about Escher. I fucking know they are. And I recognize that some people make Escher another one of the brides, essentially a male wife. And he is also married and within the Polycule. And I think that's fine and dandy. However, if you're expecting me to talk about him in that standpoint, you're new around here. I have such a hatred. Maybe I will do something different for the consorts, because I don't want this video to be too long. But I've never made him part of the actual, like, full Polycule. I always say that Strahd gets bored of him before he actually marries Escher, and thus he fully becomes part of, like, the royal family in my mind. So he just gets stuck as this consort, begging for attention. So I was really wanting to focus on the brides. Technically, all I will say is he could also be one of the people in the Polycule, if you would really want to put yourself through that. Make your own decisions. I'm not helping you with that. But also, we shouldn't forget that there's technically a fourth wife. There's a fourth wife who is still undead that you could include, who is only found as written in the catacombs. She's locked away. Sasha. Sasha is the fourth wife, and she has been locked away. And I think that there's a very interesting story there of why was she married to Strahd. So clearly there was something going on there. Who was she? And then what did she do to get locked away and left and forgotten? Because she's not mentioned hardly anywhere in the module other than in that area, which obviously is just a nod to a previous edition, obviously. But lore-wise and story-wise, to include her, there is technically a fourth wife. So what the fuck did she do to be punished so much that he's trying to erase her from history? Where did she come from? What influence did she have? Her last name, which, I didn't even go into any of their last names, but her last name is, Ivliskova? And there's the river Ivlis near the village of Barovia. And we know that Strahd names things after people of great significance in his life. Like, Barovia is named after his father, Barov. Castle Ravenloft is named after his mother, Revenovia. So who was her parent, family, that was important enough that Strahd allowed their family name to stand as a landmark in his land? There's nothing written, but it's interesting enough that I think that it's worth mentioning. And then obviously there is Gertruda, who I've never had a party care enough about that plot hook. I feel so bad about that. It's just because it's so early on. It's so early on when you can't really do shit about it. And then by the time you can kind of do something about it, no one remembers. No one remembers that that's something that people agreed to. But Gertruda is a young girl who ran away to the castle from the village. And you get the plot hook from Mad Mary, who's crying and wailing in the village because her daughter's missing. And I think it's important when we're talking about his romantic pursuits is that even though if you run things as written, like he starts to pursue Irina, he still has Gertruda just sitting in his bedchamber, waiting to be turned, waiting to dedicate herself to him, thinking that that's going to make her life super interesting and fun. So it's important to think about her and like what are her motivations, because you gotta age her up, because it seems like she's supposed to just be a teenager who wanted to explore and do something else with her life, and then that gets into really weird territories. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it, guys. Do not fucking do it. Look at me in the eyes. Don't do it. I don't think I actually need to go that hard with people who watch my content. So obviously she should be like a full adult, but like if she was so sheltered in her life, running away, the whimsy of a royal giving her attention, and then immediately being neglected. Or you could say that she gets turned and she's added and really expand the polycule. Could also be interesting. But yeah, I think that's all I got. And it's also getting really hot in this room, so I really want to be done so I can turn my air conditioning back on. If you guys want me to expand on anything or provide more ideas for how to expand the brides and how to utilize them, I can maybe make a video about how to have them show up more in your campaign actively, because I think a lot of people just wait until your party goes to Castle Ravenloft and then they're just part of like the end battle, and that's fine and dandy, but that's boring. Why wouldn't you have hot wives running around? Let the hot wives run around. Around? I'm not. That's the take. That's it. Let them run around. Let them influence the world and make things harder. They should be active participants in the story to help defend Strahd and ally with Strahd and spy for Strahd and toy with the party. Like, they're an extension of him and his reach, and you should use them. So if that's something you guys would like me to talk about, maybe I could start brainstorming some ideas for that. That would be fun. But yeah, so that's all I got. I don't know how I want to end this. I don't know how I want to leave. I don't know how to leave this conversation. Oh God, every autistic person's nightmare. Anyway, I mentioned this earlier, but Dark Lords and Dragons, Dad's back. This is the first video that I'm putting out since Dad has fully returned. So if you're interested in more Ravenloft lore, the expanded universe, that is out, and we're doing a 6-episode run. So you got a good amount of content coming at you pretty quickly. Very excited to see all of that fully come out. We got a whole new look, a whole new brand, a whole new format. Everything's looking up for the podcast, dude. Go check it out. Go check it out, not just because I added he to my pronouns and suddenly I had to be a white guy with a podcast. Shut up about it. Shut up about it. No one asked you for your fucking opinion, Michael. Yeah, Michael, I'm calling you out directly. I don't know if anyone named Michael actually watches my shit. But Michael, how dare you? Alright, thank you all for watching. I want to hear any feedbacks, any ideas. What have you done with the brides? What have you done with the wives? Tell me. Give me your ideas. Let's collaborate. Let's share ideas. That's how we make better stories, is we share our ideas with each other. So I'd love to hear what you've done with the brides, or if you have any ideas that I didn't cover or how to expand on what I covered. Would love to hear you in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, you should go ahead and do that, because I do lots of stuff like this, and I do some gaming stuff, which is pretty rad and cool of me. You are welcome. And everyone is still here, right? Daddy issues, you didn't walk off? You didn't wander off and get seduced by Strahd? Oh, we lost one. Oh, seven's in the chats! I say as if this is live. Oh, 7 in the chat! We lost a fallen soldier. There's always a simp out there. There's always a simp. There's always someone who's gonna do it. And it was you. You've disappointed me. You've disappointed your wereraven guide. Get it together. Anyway, I will see you guys next time.